I'm here in Chile, Utah at Pikus 3D, where they've reached an incredible level of commercialization without VC funding, designing beautiful objects like this. We're gonna meet with their CEO, Darren, check out their print facility where they have all kinds of awesome setups. They've had this printer since 2019 in here, and hopefully we'll have an awesome time. Then at the end of the video, we'll check out a project in a stadium. They've got a sports stadium integrating these 3D printed elements. This is gonna be an awesome video, so make sure to stick around. Hey Darren, how's it going?
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you. Thanks for letting me stop by.
Yeah.
This is a huge facility you have, like 30-foot ceilings?
You know, it's one of the largest gantry systems, and so it naturally has to have a huge ceiling height. Yeah, let me show you around.
Yeah. You've got some prints going on right now. It sounds like they're about to start up in a minute. What are these here?
Yeah, so these are planters. They're gonna have large trees in them. We actually have custom steel anchoring. So as you might imagine, large trees have a lot of wind force, and we got to hold all that down and work with HOK, the designer, on these, and they're going to a stadium not too far from here.
And inside you guys can get a peek of the kind of consistency these guys get, even with the, it's not called a cantilever, it's a, what's the angle?
Yeah, the overhang angle. As you can see down here, Jarrett, it is more steep on the angle where it starts off, that overhang.
That's real steep.
Yeah, and then as we come out here, it gets more stacked on top of each other, so not near as steep, maybe more like 10 degrees. When we started this, we were probably getting 25 to 35 degree angles, and over time we pushed the upper limit, 45, 50. When we worked with WDI for Disney, we got it over 45, and about a year and a half ago we achieved a full 90 on a compressive dome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's with accelerant 2K material?
Yeah, 3-part system. So mortar, poly, which helps it move through the hose.
3K.
Very little water, almost no water at all. And that helps us achieve higher strength, fewer cracks. And then of course at the print head is the activator, and that's a key part of this so that it sets up very rapidly. I can show you how that works.
So you've got your silo over here, that's where you load in the dry, you use Sika material?
Yeah, I'll note here on the back wall you can see the super sacks of the mortar. It is a cementitious material, but very efficient in how we use it. As you can see with the structure, if you did this in precast or cast in place, you'd be every bit of 5, 6, 8 inches thick. So we're typically cutting out almost 5, 6, 84% of the mass. That's a lot of CO2 reduction, makes it safer and faster to move.
So it's nice being in Utah, it's drier here, so you get better shelf life of your materials, so you don't have to worry about like a 2-week lifespan like in Florida?
It's definitely an advantage, yeah. Yeah, if we had a location in Florida, that would be a different consideration, certainly with the humidity.
Can be tough for those guys. So you load the material in here?
Yeah, so we load it in here, it drops through the hopper, it's fed through the auger.
So that it doesn't matter how full it is, that kind of levels out the pressure?
How full it is or not is a great question for Blake or Alex, and we'll grab them in a second.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then this is your batch plant mixer?
Yeah, yeah. In simplest terms, we have a poly, which helps us keep water lower and get strength higher. Kind of like, imagine small rubber bands at a microscopic level. That's fed through, combined with a little bit of water, and then fed through the hose. I'll walk you this way, just watch your step. Hey Jared, you got a second? Yeah. Here's our expert when it comes to running the machine.
You guys are confident.
I was just walking Jarrett through the process of the material entering. You want to just explain what happens after the hopper and what's happening here?
Comes into our dosing unit and holds here. And then as it calls for it, it drops down into here, where feeds through a Connie mixer, which has a bunch of pins that mix everything together with water and our poly additive that helps retain moisture. There's some elastomer properties in there. When it gets pumped all the way over to the print head. And in the print head we add an activator that helps speed up curing, so we can control how fast and how slow the material actually cures.
And it's looking really consistent right now.
Yeah, I got it dialed in. So.
Got it dialed in.
Looking good, thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Jared, it's safe. You can walk over here with me.
You mentioned these are for seating?
Yeah, everything that's printing today is going to a park. And so you can see here, as I mentioned previously, fully compressive dome. And it's about 160 degrees Fahrenheit as it's coming out of the print head. Right here is where the activator is being combined with that material that you saw coming out of the dosing unit. And that activator results in a very rapid chemical response to the concrete, so it sets up very quickly. We're achieving over 3,000 PSI in 24 hours and over 8,000 PSI in about 14 days. With this mix design, we can go up to 14,000 PSI depending on the design of the mix. But for most seating objects, we don't need to be all too strong.
Usually I'm asking how you're planning on making the prints better quality and things of that nature, but it seems like since you got that dialed in, what's the thing your company needs the most right now to grow?
Yeah, you know what, Jared? It took us several years to get our cookie recipe totally dialed in. And at this point, having a consistent mix, having our team that has a lot of experience, being able to apply that experience to specific products. So we're going out throughout the nation and finding projects that have seating like what you're seeing here, whether that's in a pebble, we call it a ballite actually, you can see it on our website, or it might be a custom seating unit in Houston, in Denver, in Orlando, but all over. And we're combing through these projects out there and working with architects to ensure that the developers have the seating of their dreams.
And are you guys hiring to facilitate those projects?
Yeah, we actually have hiring right now going on. I'm looking for someone in Texas and I'm looking for someone in Florida right now who has relationships with architects, but most importantly has experience selling construction products.
Cool, and we'll leave a link to your website in the description whether somebody wants to work with you guys for a print or they want to get hired for one of those sales positions in Texas or Florida.
That's right. I'm looking to talk with people right now, actually this afternoon. If you catch this video, send me an email. I want to speak with you.
Accelerant on the extruder head, some safety buttons over there. It's all under 250 millimeters per second, so it's safe for people to be in the working area. Blake over here, who designed all these awesome structures, right?
Me and my partner Matt, yeah.
So what was the idea behind these?
People seem to like really smooth pebbles,
Yeah.
sitting on them, natural, and making these out of precast or anything else takes forever. They're way more expensive than normal, so make them faster, put them together.
And are you the designer for most of the Pikus projects?
Yeah.
Cool. What's your favorite one you've worked on so far?
Has to be Michigan Avenue, going in Chicago, Magnificent Mile. That one, that model was very hard to do, and printing it, putting it together, but it came out amazing.
What about the stadium project? Hopefully we'll be able to see that later today.
Are we seeing that later today?
Jared's going to see it later today.
Okay, yeah, that one's fun.
Yeah.
Do you use Rhino for these?
I use Rhino, yeah. Grasshopper for more free-flowing objects. Sub D can really help a lot. So.
When you were studying design, did you know technology like this existed?
No, so I left school initially and started working here, and then as the years have gone by, we've changed teams. So I taught myself how to run the printer, and then our designer left and we had some free time at the time, so I taught myself Rhino, and then I just got good enough at it to where they hired me into that position.
Oh, very cool. So kind of a started from the bottom story and worked your way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blake has been here longer than any employee at Pikus 3D. He's been cutting wood on the floor, he's been running the machine, he's been running a forklift, running Rhino, and he's been absolutely a part of our success and getting to where we are today. It's been great to have Blake's
Been
consistency.
fun.
What do we call that, Blake, at the very tail end when it starts mashing itself?
So that's just the material trying to really finish itself off, and we put the cut ending on there so nothing falls through, so we can just poke the hole, because we've had the problem where if we don't use certain settings, it falls through, and then we have to hand form that top. So just mushing it together makes it easier.
Yeah.
Still liquid enough so you can carve it.
Achieving a 90-degree overhang and getting it to the point where it's not caving in does take.
You just need that much weight pushing against it to hold it up.
A little bit of pressure against itself. So. Jared, of course, I'm going to point out the custom shroud. I don't know if you noticed that on there. We like to have fun here. What was that inspired by? S1000 RR BMW motorcycle.
So it automatically switches to extruding some amount of liquid after the print, and that keeps the hose from clogging?
Yes, with the additives that are making the material hard, if we don't clear it out with water, then everything seizes and it's a bad day.
I've seen a lot of clogged hoses at different prints, and that can really be not just an expensive problem, but a really time-consuming problem.
Yeah, we've had to undo the hoses going on this entire machine and hammer it and put rebar in it to try to get the sand out. We've had some pretty...
That sounds like a rough day.
It was a rough day. It was a late night.
What year was that?
That must have been 21.
So yeah, 2021. I mean, think about that, Jarrett. The just the cumulative number of hours and being able to have low turnover, having Blake here learn through that, and that passed down knowledge of this team. As you know, there's nothing easy about 3D concrete printing. It can be finicky. In some ways, it's like baking grandma's special cookie recipe or something. And if you get like even the humidity off and the chips don't come together, and passing down her special recipe has been part of what Blake and the team's done.
It's such a cool system you have here where it looks like they're on wheels, so you're able to push it down the line.
That's exactly right, Jared. As we complete printing out some of these components, we can just run the conveyor, and we've got a whole fresh table in order to create more prints. And we might do that several times in a day. Today we'll do it one time. And naturally, as it gets out there, we move with our fork truck, move it to another part of the facility, or set it outside and let it cure and then ship it out to its destination.
I had a camera rolling on the print bed the entire day. They printed 16 elements, rolled them down to the back of the conveyor belt, and then printed another 10, and there was only one mishap the entire time. Print operator Jared got distracted talking to a visitor, and because of that, he forgot to punch the hole in the top of the object in time. When he got to it, you could see it cracked because of all the heat built up. I got a great interview with him about that, but it only took them 8 minutes to clean up and about another 8 minutes to print the next unit.
Yeah, because it causes an exothermic reaction, gives off heat. So as we build up and encapsulate and close off the print, that heat has nowhere to go. So we have to poke a hole in the top with a screwdriver for the heat to escape.
Any idea how hot it is?
I think that they just checked it and it was around 50 degrees Celsius.
So my name's Alex Jose, here at Pikus 3D. I've been here for 3 years, and I am the Production Innovations Manager.
Can you explain the startup process to me?
Yeah, so we have our bucket over here. This is where it cleans out and mixes the activator into the mix cell. And so that's just getting us a perfect mix for the beginning of the print.
And what's that little laser pointer on the bottom?
So the laser serves a couple of purposes. First, it traces the outline of the area that it's going to print, and then second, it's sensing our Z-axis so that we get the right layer height.
Welcome to the main event, a stadium project which includes some of Pikus 3D printed concrete.
What you're seeing right now is the newest stadium in Utah. Pikus 3D was asked to be a part of the ice rink. We then got pulled into inside the stadium.
Here they're moving some of the fresh Pikus pieces into place with a telehandler. You were talking about the straps they have underneath?
Yeah. What I'll point out to you here is the strap pockets. Those double as both drainage keyways, while also making it easy to get your straps from out underneath the piece once you're done setting it.
Massive overhang. You printed these upside down?
We printed them vertically. So yeah, technically,
Like that.
yes, technically there was no overhang that we really dealt with. The overhang is actually on the nose, on the back end of that. So as it's printing up this way, that's where you're getting almost a 45-degree angle right here on a vertical print. Okay, Jarrett, one of the things I have to tell you about, the reason why we have stepping stones, fire pits, and seat walls, some with LED rope, some without, all over this property is because it's 3D concrete printed. Why does that matter? Well, if you see right here, look how hollow this thing is. We can hide lighting controls, so you got light. You have a place to put your LED rope. If you want gas line controls for fire pits, which we're doing here. If you want to have water feature, it's an incredible product to do that as well. On this property, we're engaging water, fire, and light, and the property owner really likes the fact that they can integrate all of that seamlessly and easily with the 3D print. That's the primary reason why we got selected on this project.
Hopefully we can get him to do a Bumble statue too.
And if we can do a Bumble statue, we absolutely will have a chance to go after it. Yeah, it's really a flexible product, more flexible than other technologies. I'm glad we're a part of pioneering this product, to be part of, in this case, 5 different products in one site. And we're looking forward to seeing where we can take it. I mean, this is just the beginning of where 3D concrete print is going. And we're excited to be part of it for sure.
Now we're standing at the ice rink and all of the pieces covered by the boards. You guys printed those?
Yeah, that's right. So one of the unique things about this stadium is they want to attract foot traffic every day of the week. And so you have people coming to the stadium, going to the ballpark, going to the theater, and Larry H. Miller really wanted to drive all sorts of traffic, including ice rink or playground. There's a big playground. We've got some pieces over there. This is the ice rink. And early on, we started talking about how would we, if you had a big corporate sponsor come out here, say Coca-Cola, and you want to have red, white LED strip, we're providing the 3D printed, which got hollow, enables you to hide your lighting controls in there and get everything you want from a great experience around an ice rink. Standing here with Joe from Intermountain Plantings, one of the Pikus certified installers here in the state of Utah. Joe has the most experience, I think. At this point, maybe coming up on 100 linear feet of installed product.
Yeah.
So you're new at this. Like, what's your feedback to someone considering doing 3D concrete print versus precast? What would you say?
I say don't hesitate when you look at the product. It's very easy to install. Like as you just can tell, we got to do our job to make sure everything is level and everything just falls into place. You know, anybody can do it.
Anyone can do it. Makes it easy. It's
Makes
kind of
it
like
easy.
playing with Legos.
Yeah, just like playing with Legos.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, there you go from Joe. I mean, he just started using this with the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Do you like the straps on the bottom compared to traditional?
Yes, the straps really do work. You know, to kind of balance and bring it down. The straps, and they're really easy to pull out.
Oh, that's good.
They're really easy to put back in. You know, you just run a wire underneath there, pull it. Everybody.
You guys did a fabulous job getting this thing dead nuts plumb and level. If we were to improve the product in any way, what would you say?
If you want to improve,
like what would we do to change?
Maybe like the corners here. Maybe if you get like a little 45 or a little 22.
Oh, so actually chamfer it back a little bit?
Yeah, 22, so that way the bottoms don't, because you guys have a great base. That's a great base.
Yeah.
But I say like maybe do a little 22 on it, right?
Yeah, all right, let's go. Thanks, Joe.
Hey, you're welcome.